This subject this morning, we're going to call it eternity. Everybody shout eternity. I got several titles. I was just going to call it Made to Last Forever. You were made to last. Made to last forever. Or was going to call it Life with eternal from an eternal perspective. I want to read you a passage of Scripture. Normally I would do this out of King James's or even New King James's. This morning I'm reading this out of the New Living Translation. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 11. Ecclesiastes. Look at somebody say, you're looking good this morning. I love you. I want you to know that. I really love you. I think about you consistently because you're my sheep. As a pastor, I can't ignore you. Look at somebody say, I can't ignore you. I can't ignore you. I don't come home from this place, cut the cattle on and say, well, that's enough of that. It's not like that. It's in here. God puts people in your heart here. Sometimes they're strangers. Sometimes you only see them wide, but God locks them and He adds them to a list of people on the inside. And sometimes when you're home, you think about people and you pray about people. I want you to know this morning, I love you. I want you to know that you're a tremendous congregation, easy to work with. And because if we were all a fighting bunch and a nasty bunch of goods, and there's churches that's full of that, and we're all backbiting and moaning and gloating, and I couldn't do what I do right now because I'd have to be preaching on things to sort the mess out. But because you haven't given us problems, because you have a heart for Jesus Christ and a love for one, because we go through trials and every now and then you don't like the person you're sitting beside, that's just human beings. But in general, we haven't had to stop to fix things up. We've been able to proceed. We've been able to push through. We've been able to equip. In fact, I always think it has got the heart of a church. It's got the love of a church. And a lot of people, strangers, have come into me over the years, including preachers, has come into me and says, there's a real love in your church. There is a real, and he's not talking about in me, he's talking about in you. There's a love of God in this church. There's a love for each other, absolutely. And so I think it's two things. I think it's got the heart of a real family church, but at the same time, to me, it's like a Bible school, because I can teach things here that I can't teach in other places. I go to other places and they're not at a level. You think, I know all this stuff, but they don't. And I go to places and they're not at a level that you're at, and I can't teach the stuff that I teach here. And so I'm just patting you on the back this morning and saying you're doing a great job. Absolutely. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 11 out of the New Living Translation. It says, God has made everything beautiful in its own time. There's a time to things. God has made everything beautiful in its own time. Then He has planted eternity in the human heart. He's put eternity in the human heart. But even so, people cannot see the whole scope or the whole picture of God's work from the beginning to the end. Let me open this by a statement this morning. This life is not all that there is. This life is not all there is. I know we run it and we deal with it like we're going to live forever, like this, we're going to be on the face of planet Earth forever, that we'll all get 90 or 100 years, but that's not the truth and that's not the fact. But the fact is, whenever it's over here, it's not really over. It's not over at all. This is just the beginning. In fact, this is like the dress rehearsal before the main performance. This is where we get to make some decisions and we train. Somebody once put it that you train to reign. And it's not about reigning here, it's about reigning in eternity. We're not going to be floating about on clouds when we get to heaven. We're going to be on assignments for the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. In fact, you're going to spend more time after death in eternity than you're going to spend in this lifetime when you're here. This is like the preschool. It's like the warm-up lap before you really start the big show. In this lifetime, very few ever make it this distance, but the max you kind of get, the maximum is about 100 years old. Few there is that make it to there. But nevertheless, you're not guaranteed any of it, but the maximum is about 100 years old. 100 years old in the light of eternity is absolutely nothing. It's like a dot on a page with 1,000,000 words in it. You imagine 1,000,000 words on a page, and it's just one small dot right in there. That's all this lifespan is that we get. Most of us don't even get 100 years, but that's all the lifespan is. And we live our life like we have the 1,000,000 years on the earth. No, you don't. And we've got to understand that there's eternity in our hearts, and we've got to start and think about eternity. We could look beyond where we are. God designed you. He made you after His own image. We were made in the image of God. God is an eternal God. He doesn't live in time. He lives outside of time. And He birthed us with the same thoughts so that we would have and put eternity in our hearts. And there's always been this fight to know what is in the hereafter. They make stories about it. They write books about it, about the hereafter. You and I will live there. No one lives forever. It's impossible. You cannot. And sometimes we think when death comes, it's kind of unfair. But it does come. And you don't have a say in it. And it's hard because I recently, in standing with people and walking and talking with them, then they passed away on me, man. Almost, it began to knock at my heart again. And I used to never think of these things because I was so busy doing the work of the God, you'd almost forget about the eternity that's out there for us. But one day our heart will stop beating, for sure. And their time on earth in this body will be over. But you will never die. Look at somebody say, I will never die. This earth suit that you're in there, this temporary dwelling that we're in, it comes in different shapes and sizes. It comes in different colors and descriptions. But this earth suit that we have, one day you will share it. The body calls it a tent. Or the Bible calls it a tent. This body calls it a tent, makes reference to it as a tent or a temporary dwelling place. But when it makes reference to heaven, it talks about a house, your body being a house. And let me tell you something, on this earth, we have many choices, and you'll have to make many choices. In eternity, eternity has only two choices. That is heaven and that is hell. And your relationship to God while you're on the face of planet Earth will determine which one of those two you'll get when you get on the other side of the grave, on the other side of death. And here you've got to learn to love Jesus Christ. You've got to learn it. You've got to learn to love Him. And it comes with an invite from Him, a personal invite from Jesus Himself to spend the rest of eternity with Him. If you reject His love, if you reject His forgiveness, if you reject His salvation, then you will spend all eternity without Him, separated from Him. You will never in your lifetime know what the love of God is like. You may feel it here this morning, but you'll never know what it's like in eternity, for God's not in hell. He only resides in heaven. C.S. Lewis one time said it, there's only two kinds of people. There's the people who say to God, Thy will be done. That's our prayer, isn't it? Thy will be done in my life. And then there's them to whom God says to them, okay, have it your own way. God won't really argue with you. If you decide to reject Him, if you decided to put it off to another day, He will not argue with you. He'll keep knocking, He'll keep going, but He won't argue with you, but He'll be there. But there's the decision. You don't get a chance after this life to make that decision. You only get the opportunity while you're alive on the face of planet Earth in order to do it. And tragically, many throughout will end up living throughout eternity without God, because they wanted to live without God on the face of planet Earth. You don't get a chance afterwards. Now is the only chance you'll get. Now, when you have eternity in your thinking, when you know this is not all there is, and it's good what we have, and we've got purpose behind what we're doing, but when you know this is not all there is, it changes everything about you. When you realize then this is only preparation, this is where we're training to reign. This is where we're getting ready for what God really has us to do in the next life. When you realize, you'll start to get closer to Him. And you know what I found? The closer you get to God, the less things matter in this lifetime. Absolutely. The rest of the things that people's going afterwards, it doesn't affect you the same way anymore. You'll begin to handle life different. You'll begin to handle people different. When you look at people, you just won't stick your nose down at them anymore. You look at them and say, man, if they don't make a decision for Jesus Christ, they're going to go to a lost eternity. You'll start to think people different. You'll start to treat people different. You start even activities and goals that you set. You realize that these are goals, but if I never really accomplished them, what does it matter? I'm going to heaven when this is over. He's preparing me now. The problems that seem to be huge will become trivial in the light of eternity, when you realize this is just a fleeting glimpse, it'll be over. When you realize there's values, you'll change your values about life, you'll change your values about people, you'll make your money and your time. Money and time will change directly. If you think this is all there is, you'll panic and wonder, am I going to have enough? Will I get a pension? What happens to the pension? Because you're thinking now. When you realize about eternity, God says, I'll take care of you right here until you're prepared to come to where I am. I'm already preparing a place for you. You'll have a higher priorities in life. You'll realize what really matters in life is relationships and character above all the other things, instead of fame and fortune and achievements in life that everybody wants. And let me tell you, in the light of eternity, won't really matter. What you'll put value on is relationships. People and relationships. You'll want to take care of people. You want to watch with people. You want to spend your life with people. And you'll want character. You'll want your character right. You want to do things that will please the Lord and please Him only. I tell you, the keeping up with the Joneses, you'll not even try anymore. That won't even be in your thinking in the light of eternity. If this was all there is, I can tell you, go on ahead and eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you die, and there's no consequences. There's no repercussions for what you do in this life, but that wouldn't be so. But death is not the end of you. It is not the end of you. Death is not termination. It is not termination. Death is transition. Transition into eternity. It's the only way you can get into eternity. But death, and you look at it like this, it's not painful. I should think about I wonder what it's like to die. I wonder what's going to be like in those final minutes. God says, and makes you a promise, He says, death in the eyes of the Lord, He says, the death of the saints is precious in the eyes of the Lord. He's there at the last minutes. I've always surmised this or deemed this, that a person in their last moments are probably not even there. When you're looking at them and their eyes are still open, I don't think they're even there. I think moments before that they have just slipped away on. Many times I've sat with those who's slipping away. I've sat with those who's in their dying hours. I've sat with them. Many who love the Lord Jesus, many of them sit up straight on the bed, even though they're half paralyzed in the last minute. They're either a hands reached up or they'll sit straight up. And I've said it, some of them actually said, I can see him. I can see him. And some of them, one lady in particular that I know really, really well, I wasn't there with her at the last, but her husband was, but I'd sat for weeks with her. And when she went, her husband said to me, he said it was such a joy. She sat straight up in the bed with her arms out like this, and she said, I see him, he's come for me. And she dropped back on the bed and died with a smile on her face. Look at somebody say, way to go, way to go. Way to go. I've seen them. I've heard about it and different, even talked to different ones in their last moments when they're moving from here into a greater place. And those last moments, even though that it looks painful, it looks tragic, I don't think it is for the world of the saint. I think on the inside, the spirit man has already made their connection and they're stepping out over it, that we're not supposed to fear death. But there is eternal consequences to everything we do. And you've got to understand this, what we do will be held towards where we're going in the light of eternity. What you're living, this life is just a visible tip of a huge iceberg. The invisible bit is eternity, where you and I will live and you and I will go. What's it going to be like, Joe? What's it going to be like in eternity with God? It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. I don't think there's any words to describe. In fact, Paul, who was a theologian and a scholar, he couldn't even find the words to say when he quoted in 1 Corinthians 2 and verse 9. He says, eye has never seen, nor ear has never heard, neither has it even ever entered into the heart of man the things that God has prepared for them that love Him. He said, I don't even words have to describe it. The theologians reckon that he actually saw heaven one time when they took him outside the city. They stoned him. They said he died. And the Bible said then afterwards that the disciples gathered around and prayed and his life came back into his body. Many people say then at that moment in time he went to heaven. He got a little glimpse around heaven because when he wrote in Corinthians what he saw, the things he saw and what he saw, he said, I can't even write them all down. But he saw heaven. Then he came back and he began to go back and carry on the work of the Lord. So whatever heaven is, God never revealed it to us all, because I think with them we would have had such a desire to go, He would have had to let us go. But heaven will be awesome. Absolutely awesome. But he says, eye has not seen nor ear heard the things that's entered into the heart of man, nor the things that God has prepared for him that love Him. But we get little glimpses and through the veil and into eternity every now and then. In Revelation 21 and verse 4 it says, and when you get there, God wipes away all tears. All tears. He wipes away all tears from their eyes. There'll be no more death. There'll be no more sorrow. There'll be no more crying. There'll be no more pain, for the former things are passed away. You'll be reunited with those that went on ahead of us. There's a whole bunch of them ahead of me now. I'll be reunited with those that loved me, with my loved ones. You'll be released from the pain. Whatever pain there was to leave with it, you'll be released from it in a second of time. It won't be your burden anymore. You'll be released from the sorrows of it. You'll be set up then for rewards for your faithfulness. Look at somebody say, I'm going to get a lot of them. I'm going to get a lot of them. You get rewards for your faithfulness. Then, of course, what most people don't talk about is you will be reassigned. Your assignment here doesn't stop when you get to heaven. You will be reassigned to something even more dramatic and awesome when you get to heaven, whatever it is He has for you. You have purpose in being in this life, but it's not just for this life. You have purpose when you get to heaven also. You won't be lying about on the cloud, floating and playing guitars or whatever it is. You will have something to do. The Bible says, Paul says, he said, do you not know that one day you'll rule over angels, over cities, over nations? There's a whole universe out there. Who knows what God has set up? You could be the Lord Mayor of Craigavon before this thing's all over. You don't know. You could be the emperor of China or something. You don't know what God has prepared, but He's training you in reign. I remember somewhere about the 60s, there was a book out, and people used to quote from the book. It was called Live Each Day Like It's Your First Day. What they were trying to say is get up in the morning and say, this is a new day for me. But I think an even more dramatic is live it like your last day. What if this was your last day? What if this was it? If you knew, I don't think you know, but what if you did know that this was your last one? What would you do? What would you make right? What would you complete? You say, I got to do this because I'm going home to be with Jesus, but in 24 hours I better finish this. And what would you complete? What would you do? What would you complete? Or what would you start? There's things that, well, I better start that before Jesus comes. Well, what if you knew in 24? What would you start if you knew that this was to be your last day? See, if you think like that, if you think about eternity, you'll not hold grudges against people because life's too short anyway. You'll change things. You'll begin to see it from God's point of view. The Bible says He knows the end from the beginning. He sees it different than you and I. He sees the very end. He sees how it'll all turn out. He sees your tomorrows. We live in the present and we can't see about tomorrow, so we panic and we worry about things we shouldn't. But He has it all worked out. He sees it all. And when we begin to think like eternity, that's the way you'll begin to think. You look beyond the hour, you look beyond the crisis, you look out over the top of the wall and you'll say, hey, this isn't all there is. I'm doing all right where I am. I'll get through this. Everybody shout, I'll get through this. When you see it the way God says, it'll reshape your life, because the way you think actually determines your future. It'll determine your outcome. And I'm going to talk about 3 things in January. I'm only going to talk about one in the next 10 minutes, then I'm closing, because I told Laura I'm not going to preach long. I'm going to bring one, and then I'm going to tell you the other 2 tonight. But I'm going to say it this way. Life is a test. Everybody shout, life is a test. I wish I had more to tell you, longer to tell, but I don't. But life is a continual test. It'd be good to write these things down. If you're not, then listen to him. At least pick out which one He's testing you on now. He'll test you on your character. To the day you die, Jesus will always test you on your character. He doesn't allow me to become arrogant, ignorant. He doesn't allow me to lord it over people. No. That's your character. Your character. Your character can change. Things can change your character. You can become a nasty piece of goods overnight. No. If you remember, when you get to eternity, He's judging your character. He's always testing your character. Character's always tested in the trials of life. There's no other way to test it. How you holding up? How you coming through? That's your character. Your character. He's testing you on your faith. He will test your faith. He's testing you on your obedience. And He never tests you, turn around and say, well, I want you to go to China, Joe. No. He'll say to you, I want you to get out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and get down there and pray. Say, I'm too tired to do it in the morning. You just disobeyed. It's the simple things. When He says to you, I want you to go over there and bless that person, you just turn around and say, well, sure, they have enough. I'm not going to. You just failed. I don't need to test you on the big stuff. I'll just test you on the small stuff. Because if you fail on the small stuff, I know it's not worthwhile testing it there. You would fail on that. People say, well, I'll tithe if I had $1,000,000. If you can't tithe when you've got £10, you would never tithe when you've got $1,000,000, I guarantee you. But he tests you on your obedience. He'll test you on your love. And he tests you. He puts some unlovable people in your life. He put them right in there, and you say, "What? Why are they?" Well, God's just saying it. Well, we just want to see what's in you. I want you to recognize the love of God's not there the way it used to be. And you used to be able to love a skinhead. No, if they're not wearing cologne number 7, then you're not going to hug them. Get off. Come on, he's testing you on your obedience. He's testing you on your love. He's testing you on your endurance. Endurance. Wow, there's some people in this congregation, I just want to go down and hug. I would like you to tell Neil to stand off the chair and put you up in the chair for 10 minutes and say, look at this. They would say, well, I haven't done a whole lot. Let me tell you, your endurance, what you have endured, is started like a neon light flashing, and it's flashing throughout eternity. Absolutely. Look at somebody say, wonderful. He'll test you on your endurance. He'll test you on your integrity. Your integrity. That's a big one. Your integrity. What you do behind closed doors, what you do when nobody else sees you, that's your integrity. He'll test you on your loyalty. So he puts disloyal people in round about you to see what you're going to do. Will I stick with it or what? Loyalty. He'll test you on your determination. How's your determination? You say, does God really test? Well, God tested Abraham, and he asked him to offer up his son Isaac. That was a big one. He tested Jacob. Whenever Jacob, his old father-in-law, lied to him, and he had to work extra years just to get the wife that God wanted him to do it. Adam and Eve, they failed their test. David failed many a test. He did passed the good ones, but he failed many a test. Joseph passed the test. Ruth in the book of the Bible passed the test. Esther passed the test, and Daniel passed the test. There's others that didn't. There's others that didn't pass. God's always testing you. Life is a test. Your character is developed in those tests, in those trials. He's watching. And I've come to the conclusion, all of life's a test. Without a shadow of doubt, you never get free from it too long. God's constantly watching. Now take note, God's constantly watching your response to people. How are you responding to people? How do you respond to people? Because it's the ones you're not responding to too well is the ones where he's testing you. Anybody can get on with me. Look at somebody say, we love him. Anybody can get on with me on a good day. On a good day. I have my moments too. But let me tell you something. I'm in the same trial as you. I've got to go through the same test as you. But let me tell you something. He'll test you how you respond to people. So what's the last one? Anybody can think, well, I didn't respond too well on that one. There's other ones you did. I really responded good. I was there, But it's the ones you didn't respond well till, you know what I found about the test? You get to take it again. All right, so there's people, how you respond to people. See, it's easy to respond to Norman. Norman's just a lovable big guy, shakes hands at the door. Then you come in here and some other people. How you responding to people? God's watching it. How you respond to problems. How you respond to problems. God's watching it. It's a test. How you respond to success. I know a lot of success has almost killed people. How you respond to conflict when they're warring and fighting against you. How you respond to that. God's watching. How you respond to others' successes. I haven't a jealous bone in my body. Not one jealous bone in my body. And I've kept it that way. But how do you respond when other people get success? When they get your job promotion you should have had, when they get the nice car and you don't, when you get holidays and how you respond to their successes. I've learned to celebrate people's successes over the years. It's not hard for me to do. It's just a part of me. You need to keep that part. Or how do you respond to others' failures? When other people fail, how do you respond to that? Well, God's watching. How you respond to illness. How do you respond to illness? Well, we've taught many, many times on healing and standing on the scriptures, but how you responded, God's watching how you respond. And here's a big one, how you respond to disappointments. Life's full of disappointments, but how are you responding to it? That's what God's testing you on. You'll be tested. I'm helping you. You may as well know what you're tested on now, because this will help you for the next one. You'll be tested on major changes, on like this. On delayed promises. Have you ever had a delayed promise? Where you had a promise, where God promised you something, it was delayed for 20 years. People in the Bible had it delayed for 20 years, a promise. How are you responding to a delayed promise? God's watching. How are you responding to impossible situations, impossible problems? How you respond to the impossible, God watches. How you responding to what we could call unanswered prayer. Unanswered prayer. Anybody here have had unanswered prayer? Okay? How you respond to that. How you respond to that, God is testing you on it. Say, well, that's me. I'm just totally disappointed with God. I wouldn't do that if I was you. I'd just turn around and say, I haven't a clue what you're doing, and I'm not smart enough to understand this and this. I ask you, and if it didn't come, well, I'm sure you have a good reason. Maybe I'll get twice as much round the corner, but I'll stick with the positive, and I'll stick with the promises. Are you with me? Because God's watching how you deal with the promises. He's watching how you deal with unanswered prayer. Every one of us has been there one time or another. We're not smart enough to understand why He held it back in that season. We're not smart enough to know, but I'm smart enough not to argue with them and say, you know best. He watches and tests us how we deal with undeserved criticism. And that's not easy. But how you deal with that and how you respond to that, God is watching. And how you respond to tragedies. Tragedies, God watches. It's not because of here right now. Well, that will develop your character. But it's in the next life. Whatever He's lined up for you, He needs all this sorted out now. He'll test you on your faith through the problems in life. You can sort of say, I have great faith, but you're probably not going through anything at the minute. But when your world's falling apart and everything's going wrong and there's nothing's going to correct this, only you believe in God in the face of adversity, He'll test you on it. That's where you get the marks. He'll test you on your hope, because I've met people and they thought their hope was all lost, hope was gone. He'll test you there. He'll test you there on your love for people, and He'll test you on this one. And we better move off this before I freak you all out. But He'll test you on how you act when you cannot feel God's presence. And we've all been there when you can't feel His presence. But how you responded to that moment, how you went on, God will deal with it. He will test with it. When you realize then life's a test, God's watching over. He's taking notes. He's got an angel assigned to me, watching to see how I'm performing. It's like working my CV, my interview for where I'm going next. God's watching this all the time. Then you realize every day to you is important. This day is important to me. This day is important to me. Because every day is important, because every day is another opportunity to get it right. Every day is another opportunity to develop my character, to keep my integrity right, to demonstrate my love to people. It's another opportunity to make the phone call to say I'm sorry. It's an opportunity and to reach out and do and get another chance at least to correct something. Every day is an opportunity to get it right before God blows the whistle and say, you've ran your last lap, come on up with me, son, because then it's too late. Are you with me? So this is the opportunities. And some tests are overwhelming. Some tests, but God has this scripture, and we're closing. In 1 Corinthians 10 and verse 13 says, there's no temptation. The King James Version says, this is 1 Corinthians 10 and verse 13. There's no temptation. The word temptation simply means test or trial or adversity. There's no test, trial or adversity has taken you, but such is common to man and always. There's nothing. There's no speciality brought out of a box somewhere special to you. We all go through the same trials. There's no test, trial, or tribulation or adversity taken you, but such is common to man. But the Bible says God is faithful, that He'll not suffer you to be tempted, tested, tried above that you're able, but He will, with the temptation, the test, the trial or adversity, also make a way of escape so that you're able to bear it. So at the time of the test, the Spirit of God's right there with you, watching you, strengthening you, assisting you, and helping you to pass the test. The test is not where you're going to qualify with God. It's to get you through. It's to fine-tune you to the place where God's going to use you throughout eternity. And so it's important to God that you pass the test. It's important to Him, so He sends strength to you to enable you to do it. He walks close with you when you're going through it. And at the end of the day, He said, just get through this. Just get through this. And at the end of it, if you get here, I'm going to give you a crown of righteousness just for being faithful. And He says, I'll reassign you throughout all eternity. Who knows what you'll be in the next life? Who knows, maybe you'll rule over. The Bible talks about a man with the talents that he would rule over. He says, well done, my good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of the Lord. He said, I'll set you over 10 cities. I'll set you over 10. To an ordinary man. He just gave him something. And in his end, he says, I'm going to set you over. We're looking at rulers and princes and authorities right here in this building. You say it doesn't look like it now because I just live in Warrenstown. Doesn't look like it. I'm from Dollingstown or from Tandragee. I know. But you won't always be in Tandragee and you won't always be in Dollingstown. One day you'll have to leave this earthly suit and then you'll step into your heavenly one, the permanent one. And then you'll rule and reign throughout eternity with Jesus Christ. You'll be doing the awesome, the magnificent. Life won't stop for you. There'll be a hiccup in the midst of it where you'll breathe your last here. But in a second, you'll be caught up into the very presence of God and ushered in to another kingdom. I remember teaching many years ago about the heavenly city, the New Jerusalem. And in my mind's eye, kind of used to say it would come down across the earth. And you had this picture of this little city, with a few skyscrapers stuck up. Until I heard a teaching many years ago, and I can't remember who taught on it. If I do, I'll try and find out what he said. But he actually gave the dimensions. The Bible gives the dimensions of heaven, but it's given in furlongs and squares. And that doesn't mean nothing to me. But there was an intellectual mind who actually worked it out, the size of the New Jerusalem. And that's awesome. It is huge. He gave it, and compared to like a London, compared to Chicago, compared to cities. I mean, many's Warsaw got 66 million or some people. It's more, isn't it? 40. Poland is 40 million people. Well, if we all went, I mean, people's been going from the cross, people's been going to heaven in their droves. So how are they all going to get into a city, into a land even the size of Poland? How are you going to get them all in there? Those things used to baffle me until one day I heard somebody preach that. I've never heard it like that. And I got caught up in something else. I'm going to think about that and find out, and going to read on it and find out what he said and give you the dimensions. But he gave the actual dimensions of just the city. The city's not the land. The city has the land that has all the land on the outside of it. I know one lady who died and went to heaven, and when she arrived, she didn't arrive in the city. She arrived outside the city wall. She said the grass. She arrived on the grass. The grass wasn't like any grass here. It was like it was a lush carpet. She says the smell, the flowers, the fragrance all over the place. But she arrived and she saw the city wall, and says there's a person came and said, "Walk with me. We've been expecting you." Who walked her right up to the gates of the city of God. And the angel said it's not her time, she'll have to go back. And there was a whole other story. But what interested me was that apart from the city, the new city of heaven, and the city of heaven, the capital city, there's the massive land outside. Dear knows how many other towns and villages is out there. There's room for us all. Look at somebody say, there's room for you. There's room for us all. I'll try and find it if I can. But somebody give the dimension. And he took like London and Chicago, that is major cities. But I think Dublin or Belfast holds about 500,000 people. That's nothing compared to the cities of the world. Millions and millions in just like there's 32 million or something in Chicago. Millions and millions. This city outranked them all. It was able to put all other cities inside. It was so huge, and it was in levels. I'll get you the dimension. It was set like in terraces, where it wasn't just on a flat plane, but it was like sloped up, and it was in different levels. But there was room for us. I thought, man, I wonder what level I'm going to live on up there. I wonder if I'm in the penthouse suite or where I am. All I know is this, I'm going there. Are you going there? He makes a way for us to go. The trials in life, I know the enemy puts some trials, and they're tough and they're crazy. There's other thing God just says, just worship me a while when you're here. You know, God's more interested in your heart and your worship and your person of you than he is in all the things we do. We try to please God with our preaching, tries to please God. We've got to go here and I'm serving Jesus there. You know what God loves more? Just you sitting at his feet and saying, you are my heavenly Father. You are my God. There's nobody. Just you and him, that intimacy. That's what he loves. More than, you serve him out of that. So don't do away with your first love. Stick to your first love. He has a place for you. This morning, I got to close this morning. I didn't do too long. I probably did. Don't tell Laura, just how we kept him talking afterwards. But if you don't know him as Savior, if you have not asked him in your heart, then I could cry now over that. But I can't cry in heaven because there's no tears in heaven. And people say people's looking down upon you. No, they're not. When you get to heaven, if I was to look back onto some of the people I've left, I'd cry, and there is no tears in heaven. So if they're not in heaven, they're not crying over you. They're rejoicing They're running around. See, imagine getting a guided tour. You know, when you get in and say, we want to show you this, Joey. There's Isaiah over there. So, come over here. There's David. He said, you know, and you're going to show you. It'll take for years just to get the guided tour. And then you pass by and the biggest house sitting there, the big mansion. And he'll turn around and say, by the way, that's yours. We'll go there later. And the banqueting table. And you don't have time. Just think about this back here. This is the only time you get to think like this. When you get through off the earth suit, you won't have time. Everything changes dramatically. No sorrow, no bills, no fears, no tears, no crisis. None. But the real you, well, all I did was endure, Joe. I didn't even sing. I just endured. I know. Seemingly that's enough to get you something when you get to the other side. I passed that test. Didn't do too well on that one, but I passed that one. I know. Just keep passing the tests. Because this will be over in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye. And then heaven opens its door to you. If you don't know him, then all I've talked to you is irrelevant. Because there's nothing but darkness, sorrow, pain, hurt, and weeping and wailing. That's all there is. That's the only alternative. Heaven, eternity only offers two things. Either heaven or hell. And you can't make it when it's over. You can only make the decision now for to have it. If you don't sign up now, when the last breath goes, you won't have time. And it is dangerous. You say, I'll leave that to the last minutes. It's dangerous because you don't know when the last minutes is. And you don't know how it will take you when the last minute comes. And I would say this, if the angels of the Lord come for you when you're a believer, what's coming for you if you're not a believer? That's a whole other story. And I don't want to go out of here having my fish and chips on Sunday and thinking about that. But there's something, if the angels come for you and carry you to heaven, let me tell you, something else is coming for you to carry you down. And in this life, I better end it before we get carried away. But I've heard of those who died and lived to tell. And they said, all had the same story. They fell forward. But the floor wasn't there to stop them. They just fell beyond it. And every one of them said the same. Something was there to greet them. Hands reached out. Some people's died screaming because they saw it standing in their bedroom waiting to take them. I don't want that for me. I settled that when I was 26 years of age. I met a man one time who was a junkie. He was selling the stuff, and then in Belfast he was selling it, and then he started to take it till he became addicted to it and had the death sickness on him. It's what drug addicts cause it when they know it. They usually at that point it gets them in such a horrendous way they overdose and then they finish it. And he told me, he said, I heard a knock at the door in the midst of that, deciding to die because of the heroin or crack or whatever it was on. He said, I heard a knock at the door. He said, I went to open the door, Joe Corry. He said, you wouldn't believe me if I tell you the rest. I said, I would believe you. I would believe you. He said, when I opened the door, he says, there was a short person about this side with a dressed in black, with no face, but had a voice and said, it's your time. We have come for you. He said, I slammed to the door. He says, I ran to the front door, and he said their person was there, but had a face and said, it's your time. I've come for you. He said, I slammed the door, ran back into the living room and fell on my face and pleaded with Jesus Christ to save me at that moment of time. I don't want to get born again because something's standing at my door. And most people don't get the chance to close the door. They just fall forward in a drunken stupor, knocked down, full of drugs, or knocked down, or disease. And they don't get a second chance. There is no praying anybody out of it. No. This is the only chance you get. And if you don't make that decision, it's not like you make a decision and live hell on earth. It's you make a decision and heaven comes and lives on the inside of you to prepare you for heaven where we're going to. So I got to close it this morning. I got to close it now. And say, if you've not asked Jesus Christ into your heart, dear God, I don't know what to say anymore today. I don't know how to help you. I don't know. If I could force you, I would. If I could sign it for you, I'd do it, but I can't. But I don't think there's any options, but of course it's up to you. But if you don't know Him, if you don't receive Him, that's the only options. And this is your opportunity right now. See, you don't often preach salvation messages on a Sunday. I know. It was a shock to me yesterday when the Lord says, here's what we're talking about. But here's what we're talking about. So somebody's on the border, somebody's brinking, somebody needs to hear this. So I'm going to ask you just plain, straight to the point this morning. Are you ready to receive Him? There's a faceless person who will meet you if you don't. But there's a named person called Jesus who said, I'm here now. This is your opportunity. Anybody in this building, you say, do I like to make that decision right now? I hope I've made it because you love Him, not because you're afraid of it. But I just ask you right now, is there anybody in this building, you say, that's me, I need to make that decision this morning. I'm going to get my eternity sorted out, and then I'll figure my life out later. But right now, we'll sort the eternity. Is there anybody? The angel stands ready to write your name in the book of life. He cannot write it without your permission. Is there anybody? And you say, sign me up. Anybody? Now, I'm not an evangelist. I'll go on a bit for 25 minutes. We'll make it short and sweet, and then we got to close. Is there, just the last time this morning, is there anybody? I'm pleading with you now. I'm on my knees if necessary. I ask you, dear God, don't get this wrong. You can get life wrong, but don't get this wrong. Asking Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Make me a happy camper. Put your hand up and say, we'll do it now, Joe. No? We'll count to 3 and then I got to close. We'll count down. 3. It's your eternity. This is yourself. This is not about church meeting. 2. This is about your life. It's not about mine. I've made a decision. So is the person probably sitting beside you. This is about yours. 1. In the minute, this moment will pass. The Spirit of God won't leave you, but this moment will pass. This intense challenge will pass. But it's what you make that decision in your lifetime. Are you ready? Then I got to close it. Father, this morning, we can but say what we know and what we see. Decisions are up to people. Nobody can be forced. If it's forced, it's not real. So we can't force the living soul. But I pray the Spirit of God, they'll go home and even think about it. They'll dwell on it tonight, and before the morning they'll have made the decision. God, let nobody that I know, let none of my family, let none that I know go to a lost eternity. None. But do something, I pray. Send conviction or whatever it takes. Bring them safely into the kingdom of God in Jesus' name. Amen. See, I didn't even shout once. And that's something else. I didn't even shout. I nearly cried twice, but I didn't shout. If you're not back in here tonight, look, God bless you. I'll see you again in 3 weeks' time. Just keep us up in prayer. I got a lot of stuff to do. I don't know much as normal. I have to have 12 meetings to do, and most of them is in the first week. So pray for my voice.